Welcome to PGSMaths. In this video I will be looking at solving simple equations. Solving equations is about finding the value of something missing, usually a letter. The same skills involved in real-world problems can be applied to algebra. So if we looked at this problem here where I have 3 books, all the same value, and they all add up to give me £24.60, if I want to find the value of one of them, I would divide by 3. £24.60 divided by 3 gives me £8.20, so therefore each book is worth £8.20. So in an algebraic question, we're just replacing items with a letter. I've got, on the left hand side here, I have 3 x's, so I have 3x. And that is going to be equal to these 6 on the right. So I've got 3 x's that are worth 6. To find out what one of the x's is worth, I'm going to divide by 3. It's always a good idea to keep a note of what you are doing in any calculation. So I'm going to write underneath, I'm going to divide by 3. So if I divide the x's into 3 equal groups, I divide the numbers into 3 equal groups as well. I've color-coded them on this diagram so you can see I've got a red, blue and an orange x, red, blue and an orange, yellow. So hopefully you can see that each x is worth 2. By removing those out of the way, I have 2 x's is worth 4. And 1 x on its own is just worth 2. When solving any equation, our goal is to be left with just x on its own. By splitting the 3 x's into 3 piles, we were left with x. So therefore, by dividing 6 by 3 as well, we were left with 2. So if we have a situation where there is x's or any other letter plus numbers equal to something else, what we need to try and do is remove everything that is not x so we can find out what its value is. A good way to represent an equation is to use a seesaw, because a seesaw has to stay balanced. It has to have the same on both sides, as does anything that involves an equal sign. X plus 2 is exactly the same as 4. So to get x left on its own, we have to remove these two. We don't want them if we just want to have x. So if both of the 1's leave the seesaw, we're left with just x. But what would happen if 2 people just suddenly jumped off one side of the seesaw? Well, if 2 people jump off one side of the seesaw, it becomes very unbalanced. So this right side is too heavy, and we're going to have to do something to even it back up. Well, if 2 people left the right hand side, it's only fair that 2 people would leave the right. If those 2 have left the right, we now have a nice balanced seesaw. So the same way our equation has become balanced. We took away the 2 people from the left, which left us with just x, and we then took away 2 from the right as well, which has left us with 2, so therefore x equals 2. Combining these 2 skills, we can find a way to solve any simple linear equation. I want just x's left on the left hand side. So to do that, we have to take away 1. If I take away 1 from the left hand side, I have to take 1 away from the right hand side. This will keep the equation balanced. So by doing this, we're left with 2x still on the left hand side. I'm going to keep that written underneath so it can keep track of where everything's going. Plus 1 take away 1 stays the same. Still need our equal sign. And by taking 1 away from the right hand side, I'm left with 4. So if 2x's is worth 4, to find out what one of these is worth, we're going to have to divide by 2. If I divide the left by 2, I have to divide the right by 2 as well, which would leave us with x on its own is equal to 2. And again, the diagram can show that if we split this group in half, we're left with x equals 2 again. So what do we do when we have an x on both sides of the equation? We can still follow exactly the same rules, making sure that we balance the equation until we're left with x on only one side. To do this, I'm going to start by trying to make sure that there are only x's at least on one side of the equation. The easiest way to do this is to take away this lone 1 from the left hand side. If I take away 1 from the left, I have to take away 1 from the right. So that's our first step. Take away 1 from both sides. I'm still left with 2x on the left. The 1 take away 1 leaves us with nothing. So what is this equal to? Well, I still have my x, but instead of add 3, by taking away 1, I have add 2. So the next stage is to try and end up with only x's on one side. And what we can do, because there are no more numbers to remove on the left hand side, is we could remove an x from both sides. If I take away 1x from the left and 1x from the right, there are no more x's on the right, so therefore I have solved the equation. So we're taking away x from both sides. What this leaves us with is 2x take away x leaves us with 1x. And this leaves us with the x take away x is nothing, and they still have this positive 2. So x is equal to 2. This one's a little bit more complicated and very difficult to represent visually when we start to involve negatives. Now, in exactly the same way that we dealt with positive equations, we need to make sure that we're left with only the letter on the left hand side. Just wanted to show you the same thing can happen even though we're not dealing with x, but e instead in this question. So I've got 2e with a minus 1 equals 3. Now at the moment, I've got this negative 1 at the top. And the only way to cancel that out would be to add a positive 1 to it. 1 take away 1 is 0. So to get rid of this negative 1, we add 1. But that's not fair. We can't just add 1 onto the left, because then the left would become too heavy. So we've got to add another 1 to the right hand side. Even dealing with negative numbers, we still have to keep our equation balanced. So let's just solve this first step. 2e take away 1, add 1, still leaves us with the 2e. But the 1 and the minus 1 have cancelled each other out. On the right, I now have 4. So 2e equals 4. So what does 1e have to equal? Well, I want to find out what half of that is, so I'm going to divide by 2, and therefore we have to half the numbers on the right as well. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. So if I half the number of e's, I half the number on the right, and it shows e equals 2. Now this question, which is our last example for today, often baffles people. A divided by 2 equals 1. Well, I want to find out what A is, what a value for a full letter A is. So I'm going to need to double this value. I'm going to have to times the whole thing by 2 to get a whole A, aren't I? So I'll have to do the same on the right. Algebraically, this should mean that if I have A divided by 2 and then times by 2, that should just leave me with A. And then on the right hand side, 1 times 2 is 2. Visually, we're just doubling both sides of the seesaw, which proves that we have a full A now on the left and 2 on the right. So here's the challenge of the day. A delivery company charges £15 to deliver any parcel. Then also charge 50p for every mile the parcel travels. Jed pays £22.50 for his parcel to be delivered. How far did it go? Now, I've given you a hint that this can be written as an equation. So the total delivery cost is equal to £15 add half times the distance. That's £0.50 multiplied by the number of miles that was travelled. Can you use this to find out how many miles the parcel had to go? Put your answers in the comments section below. Please subscribe for future videos and send any comments or questions you have to us on Facebook /PGSMaths or at PGSMaths on Twitter.